Okay, go.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Funhouse on the Fantasy Football Advice Network. I'm Mason, your host, and joining me, this is my awesome co-host, Grindberg. I'm so excited for our second episode where we dive into the world of fantasy football. It's like going on a superhero adventure every single week. Can't wait to share my tips and tricks today, especially since I play in 2 leagues with my dad. It makes it so much fun. Today we'll explore the different types of fantasy leagues, highlight our superpower game of the week, and introduce our heroes and villains. So get your capes ready. Let's kick off this fantastic journey.
Hey everybody, welcome back to our fantasy football adventure. I'm Grindberg, your trusty sidekick, and today we're diving into the exciting world of fantasy football leagues. Think of it like choosing your own quest on a superhero universe. There are 3 main types of leagues we'll explore today: Redraft, Dynasty, and Keeper leagues. Each one is like a different superhero story. So let's jump right in. First off, we have redraft leagues. Imagine this: a brand new school year. Every hero starts with a fresh cape, ready for new adventures. Much like, Superwoman takes on a new mission with her team. In a redraft league, every season begins with an empty roster, and every team gets to draft players based on how they're doing right now. It's like a head-to-head competition where you face off against a different team each week. Just like battling villains in an epic showdown, you can change your team throughout the season, adding and dropping players like collecting super power-ups in a video game. Redraft leagues are perfect for both casual players and those who take their fantasy football seriously. It's all about fair play and having fun with your friends and family, just like a team of superheroes coming together to save the day. So, Mason, why don't you get us talking about another type of league? How about Dynasty?
Yeah, so let's talk about Dynasty Leagues. This is where you build your very own superhero team over many seasons. In a Dynasty League, you keep most of your players from year to year. That means you could trade and draft picks throughout the year, just like trading cool gadgets with your friends. You don't hit a reset button every year. Instead, you grow your team, kind of like how Batman built his Batcave. You can even save some spots for young players you think will be stars in the future. The first draft is super important because it sets up your team for years to come.
Absolutely. Like when those dynasty leagues, remember when we did that last year, we had like our row of players, and then those players are still mostly on our team this year, unless we make those big trades. So yeah, it's really, really important.
Yeah, and the next one we'll be talking about is Keeper.
So finally, we have keeper leagues. So this is a mix of redraft and dynasty, kind of like a hybrid kind of like league. Think of it like a superhero team that keeps a few of its best members while adding new heroes, much like, how Wonder Woman leads the Justice League. In a keeper league, you can keep small number of players from last season, usually between 1 and 10. This makes things exciting because you get to choose which players will help you win. Just like picking your best friend to join you on a mission, just like my buddy Mason here. He's on my mission every week on the Fantasy Football Funhouse. The league commissioner helps manage everything, making sure all the rules are followed, like Alfred keeping Batman all organized. Keeper leagues also have rules about trading and how keeping certain players might affect your draft pick.
So there you have it. Whether you like a fresh start of a redraft league, the long-term fun of a dynasty league, or mix in a keeper league, there's a fantasy football league out there for you. Grab your gear, choose your league, and let's start this awesome fantasy adventure together, where every week is a new superhero story.
Absolutely. And you know where you can find a lot of cool fantasy football stories and community, just like this community we're building with our friends and family, Mason? Well, you can find that on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. Let's hear from them right now.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.
We're diving into the Superpower Game of the week as the Cincinnati Bengals face off against the Philadelphia Eagles. And this matchup is a gold mine for your fantasy football lineups. Here's Grindberg with the breakdown.
So this week, the Bengals and Eagles, they're going to unleash their fantasy firepower in a crucial battle. Both teams are looking to rebound from their recent Super Bowl losses, Cincinnati to the Rams and Philadelphia to the Kansas City Chiefs. With the Bengals sitting at 3-4, they need a victory to keep their playoff hopes alive, while the Eagles sitting at 4-2 are hungry to reclaim the NFC crown. Okay, so superstar quarterback from Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, is poised to light up the scoreboard, supported by his dynamic duo, T. Higgins.
Jamar Chase.
Yeah, after a slow start of the season, the Bengals have turned things around with back-to-back wins, making them a tempting option for fantasy owners looking to break out performances. Burrow is looking to exploit Philly's secondary that has struggled at times, making Higgins and Chase must-starts in their lineup.
On the other side, the Eagles are riding high after a dominant 28-3 victory over the New York Giants, thanks in large part to running back Saquon Barkley, who shredded his former team for 176 yards. He's been a fantasy monster, and with record-breaking start to the season, he's a player you can't afford to bench. Jalen Hurts is a dual-threat quarterback you want in your lineup, with his ability to both pass and run, giving him immense fantasy upside.
So this showdown is just not about playoff implication. It's about maximizing your fantasy potential, folks. So with the Bengals favored by 2.5 points, over under sitting at 48, expect fireworks on both offenses, and they're going to put up points. So as these teams prepare to battle it out, Mason, the game has a fantastic opportunity to capitalize on player matchups and strategy lineup decisions. So both teams needing to win, a lot at stake here. So what do you think there, Mason?
Fantasy managers should keep an eye on injuries, especially the Eagles' tight end, Dallas Goedert, who missed last week. His absence could open up more targets for the rest of receiving corps.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like maybe Dallas Goedert might not be playing either. So look for maybe who's their number one wide receiver?
A.J. Brown.
And that's the guy, right?
Devonta Smith has been a monster this year as well.
Yeah. So let's keep on going on. Let's get into the next segment, which is our fun one, our superheroes and villains of the week. So as we head into week 8, it's time to celebrate our heroes of the week, those players who we have risen to the occasion and become beacons of our hopes for fantasy managers. First up is
George Pickens.
All right, Mason, why don't you tell us about your first hero of the week?
As we gear up for week 8, George Pickens is stepping into the spotlight as the hero of the week in fantasy football universe. With Russell Wilson making his debut as the new quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Pickens showcased his superhero-like abilities by leading the team in all receiving categories. He caught 5 passes for 111 yards and his first touchdown of the season, proving that he is ready to save fantasy teams everywhere. With 31 receptions for 474 yards and 1 touchdown overall, Pickens is firmly positioned as a reliable wide receiver 2, ready to help him fantasy football managers conquer their matchups.
So, in Wilson's inaugural game with his wielded arm like Thor's hammer, he averaged 9.1 yards per passing attempt and maintaining a 7% touchdown rate. That's pretty good. He outperformed many other quarterbacks this season. So despite the Steelers, you know how they run the ball a lot with Najee Harris? Well, Wilson's aerial attack breathed the new light in this offense, transforming your George Pickens into a formidable weapon, kind of like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers when they get all their guys together, right? With a near 30% target share, Pickens is Batman finding his trusty sidekick, Robin, consistently giving them big plays. So, Mason, tell us a little bit more about why you think Pickens is a good start.
As we look forward to the battle against the New York Giants, the dynamic duo of Wilson and Pickens is set to unleash their powers, with Wilson throwing for 264 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Pickens emerging as his favorite target. It's clear the superhero pairing has the potential to dominate the field. Pickens' standout performance on Sunday Night Football has established him as more than just a solid option. Now he's an elite wide receiver too, capable of delivering significant returns week after week. If you're searching for a player who can help you vanquish your fantasy football foes, look no further. George Pickens is the hero of the week. And the New York Giants defense has one of the worst secondaries in the league. They're bad against the pass, so that is why George Pickens is my hero of the week.
All right, good job, Mason. Now I'm going to talk about a guy that we've probably forgot about for many weeks here, and I think he's ready to come back and unleash his superpowers. You know, he's been sidelined like a hero trapped in a villain's lair. He's ready to break free and reclaim his throne as a superhero of the week, with Tua Tagovailoa nearing his historic return from injury. The Miami Dolphins are on the verge of a revival reminiscent of the Avengers reassembling after a tough battle. Before his injury, Tua was delivering impressive performances, averaging 7.8 yards per pass. So, just like Captain America leading his team into battle, the Dolphins' offense struggled in his absence, averaging a mere 10 points, which is just like the Justice League without Superman. They need their main hero to save the day. So, this is going to be Tyreek Hill is going to be my superhero of the week this week.
Hill, often compared to a speedster like the Flash, has been held back this fantasy season due to the quarterback chaos in Miami, leaving him outside the top 40 fantasy wide receivers. In stark contrast, last season he finished as the wide receiver 2 overall, proving that when he is paired with a healthy, reliable quarterback, he can fly higher than Iron Man in full flight.
The upcoming clash between the Arizona Cardinals is the perfect opportunity for Hill to unleash his superpowers once again, especially against a defense that has been vulnerable as a villain without their henchman allowing 7.8 yards per pass. So the Dolphins are ready to go. The dynamic duo of Tua and Hill, like Batman and Robin, brings continuity and synergy that is essential for fantasy football success. With the perfect blend of speed, skill, and a favorable matchup against a struggling defense, expect Tyreek Hill to unleash the inner superhero and reclaim his status among the elite wide receivers in the league. As my superhero of the week, Tyreek Hill is ready to save the day and lead your fantasy lineup to victory in style.
As we dive into week 8, it's time to spotlight our villains of the week, the players whose performances have left fantasy managers feeling betrayed. First up is my villain of the week, Marvin Harrison Jr. As we head into week 8, Marvin Harrison Jr. is shaping up to be the villain of the week in the fantasy football landscape. While he has potential, his connection with Kyler Murray is turning out to be more of a chaotic backstory than his superhero tale. In his recent game against the Chargers, Harrison managed just 3 catches for only 21 yards. This disconnect in the Cardinals' offense has left him feeling more like a sidekick than a star, raising serious concerns about his effectiveness going forward.
Yeah, that's a great call, Mason. And the stats tell a troubling story for Harrison. He ranks 5th in air yards per target, but almost half of his targets are deep throws that require him to outplay experienced defenders. It's like watching a villain with a poorly executed plan. High risk, low reward. Although he's out-targeted Trey McBride during broken plays, the offensive scheme crafted by new offensive coordinator Drew Petzing isn't giving him the opportunities he needs to succeed. With only a few design plays to get him the ball in space, he's trapped in a high variance strategy that makes consistent production feel elusive.
As the Cardinals prepare to face the Miami Dolphins, the issues of inconsistency and the unpredictability loom large. While the Dolphins have weaknesses, Harrison's role offense remains uncertain. Like a villain hiding in the shadows, given the potential for chaos on the field, he might create more frustration than fantasy points. With uncertainty surrounding his targets and a tough opponent ahead, it's wise to bench Harrison for now. Until Murray can be reliable connection, Marvin Harrison will continue to play the role of the villain of the week, leaving fantasy managers cautious about the trouble he could bring to their rosters. And I know I chose the Dolphins defense to be the defense that's making these players villains. The Dolphins defense is great against the pass. So
All right.
I would even, if you have the option, start Miami Dolphins defense.
All right. Okay. So my villain of the week is Tony Pollard. And here's why. He's resembling a character straight out of superhero movie with an underwhelming performance. In Sunday's disappointing 34-10 loss to the Bills, Pollard rushed 16 times for just 61 yards, looking more like a joker than a hero. With Tajay Spears sidelined, Pollard had the backfield mostly to himself, but couldn't seize the opportunity, scripted out in the second half, much like a villain's plan unraveling. He managed only 3 carries after halftime. With Mason Rudolph at quarterback, Pollard's effectiveness was diminished, leaving him in a trapped web of defensive schemes. So Pollard's recent performance has been inconsistent, resembling a super villain failed plot. Despite the opportunity to shine without Spears in week 7, he struggled to make an impact. Now, if the game shifts in favor of passing, Pollard will be left in the dust, much like a sidekick who can't keep up with the action. So the combination of his limited production, the daunting matchup against a formidable Lions defense, and a game script that may favor the passing all points to one conclusion. He's best left on your bench this week. So Mason, that is our heroes and villains. And we're going to introduce another segment this week, which is our
top 5s.
So this week we're going to talk about top 5 what?
Dynasty wide receivers.
Now, if we recap, we kind of know a little bit about Dynasty now. We know that these guys are kept all season, all year, unless you make a trade, right? So they're going to be on my team for next year. So Mason, why don't you tell everybody who your top 5 Dynasty wide receivers are, starting with number 1?
Well, my number 1 he's my favorite player. I'm going to have to go with CeeDee Lamb. I've got him on my Dynasty team, and I want him to stick at that number 1 spot. And if he wants to do that, he has to be more consistent in the last 2/3 of the season. This first half, this first little bit of the season, he's been kind of inconsistent. Not what I expected from him. My number 2 is Justin Jefferson, the Vikings receiver who can catch anything. Malik Neighbors is my number 3. The rookie, absolutely incredible. I see big things from him. Number 4 is Amon-Ra St. Brown. The Lions receiver is a beast everywhere on the field. And then number 5, this one might surprise you guys, but my number 5 is rookie Brian Thomas Jr. for the Jaguars.
Good, man. I like that call. I have him in my top 10, so I don't discount that one at all. So for me, my number one in Dynasty, and you got to think about this as, you're looking for young exceptional players. So I'm going to go with Malik Neighbors as my number one. My number two is Justin Jefferson, just like Mason. I have Jamar Chase still in my top three. So he's going to be my number three. CeeDee Lamb at number four. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown at number five. So there you have it. It's our top 10 all done. So Mason, do you want to, show the show what's going on and send us home?
And that's it for the episode. Thank you for joining us through this thrilling world of fantasy football. We've learned about different league types, cheered for our superhero players, and kept an eye on those tricky villains.
Remember, every week is a new chance to create your fantasy story. So keep strategizing and having fun. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Fantasy Football Advice Network, powered by the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. You never miss an adventure. Until next time, keep those helmets on and play safe. Now, folks, remember to enjoy what you're doing. Remember to have fun. And Mason, what do we say at the end of every show?
We hope you win.
We hope you win.